Thank you. The floor is now open for questions. If you do have a question, please press star one on your telephone keypad at this time. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you do have a question, please press star one on your telephone keypad at this time. Our first question comes from Marilyn from Michigan. You may ask your question.
Yes. I have a question about osteoarthritis, and I was wondering if the research has shown or given any indication of what causes the cartilage to break down to the point where somebody needs a hip or knee replacement.
That's a very good question. There are a lot of initial findings in the research that are showing possible explanations for this. And what we're finding is that there's a lot of different types of osteoarthritis. They call it phenotypes. And that's part of why we're looking at redesigning our clinical trials, because what we're finding is that treatments that might help one type of osteoarthritis don't help another type, and so drugs will get to the market faster if we can help figure out the right diagnostics and treatments for each phenotype. So we are making progress in that, and stay tuned in the next couple of years. I think we're going to see a lot of results that are going to be very helpful.
Our next question comes from Harriet from Maryland. You may ask your question.
Hi. I understand that degenerative disc disease has its roots in arthritis. Will there be any specific studies at NIH in the near future?
The question is if at NIH they're going to be studying degenerative discs and the relationship with osteoarthritis?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
I would have to check that out to see specifically what will be in their future portfolio. Within the realm of osteoarthritis research across the United States, this is definitely something that is being studied.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And our next question comes from Alan-Z from New York. You may ask your question. Alan-Z, you may ask your question. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you do have any questions, please press star one on your telephone keypad. And we did receive a few questions over the internet. I'll read the first one. What are the most promising treatments and technologies you've heard about that might lead to new ways of improving the lives of people with arthritis?
One of the examples that looks very interesting is 3D printing of joints. So when you would have joint replacement surgery for osteoarthritis, these joints are going to be more customized to fit your body, more likely to be successful, to have faster healing, and to last longer, to delay needing another surgery or perhaps avoiding another surgery. Other examples that look very promising are around considered, I guess, electrical stimulation. It's sort of like if you're familiar with a pacemaker for the heart. It's like putting a pacemaker in the brain, and they're figuring out different neurologic pathways that if perhaps these pathways are overstimulated or turned off, that might be leading to the inflammation and the problems such as with rheumatoid arthritis. And they can put this pacemaker in the brain, and then it'll, if that pathway was turned off, they'll turn it on, just like they do a pacemaker for the heart. And then people can go into remission. There's stories now in the research of showing folks who couldn't even get out of bed because of their rheumatoid arthritis, and after they had this surgery, they could go play tennis and go into remission. So very promising, but still very, very early. But those are examples of how new technologies may really be changing the future of how we treat arthritis.
Okay, and our next question comes from Barbara from Nevada. You may ask your question.
Yes. Have you found any studies that link the ingestion of sugar to inflammation in the joints
That's a very good question, and that's another example of promising research. There is just so many things to talk about that I just can't cover them all, so I appreciate your questions. As far as sugar, there's something called the microbiome, and there's many scientists looking at this, not just for arthritis, but across chronic diseases, and this whole idea that chronic diseases may actually be infectious disease, and that sugar, as well as other foods, may be changing the genetics of the microbes that live in our bodies. And some of you may already be familiar with probiotics, and people talk about that being added, for example, to yogurt. And these probiotics are examples of microbes that are good microbes that are supposed to be in our body. And there's different theories about how our current modern lifestyles are changing the balance of our good and bad microbes. And on top of that, if you look at it at a genetic level, these different microbes bring different genetics. So taking in sugar could lead to these changes in their microbe genetics, and that can lead to changes in our body's metabolism and how we manage our bodies, including causing inflammation. So there's a lot of very interesting research across chronic diseases, including arthritis, for that.
And our next question comes from Alan Z. from New York. You may ask your question.
I guess you're saying L&D, but I'm not sure if it's me. It's a Menzi. Hello?
Ma'am, you can ask your question.
Okay. Now, I'm suffering from osteoarthritis since in the 80s. I have a lot of degeneration, and my knees are probably bothering me since in the 80s. I had surgery in my right knee, complete replacement, but still it's bothering me. Is there going to be any research to see if this surgery or something else can work better?
Yes. As I had said earlier, there are a lot of new techniques to improve how surgeries are done. And a lot of the surgeries were only good for a few years, maybe up to 10 years. So definitely worth going back to an orthopedic surgeon to see how the new technologies may benefit you. They're using robotics and computers to make sure that this time the joint replacements are much more personalized for each individual rather than one size fits all. And that may help you. Again, it's a case-by-case basis. You'd have to talk with your own physician about that.
Thank you.
Okay, we received another questions from the web. How is the Arthritis Foundation helping to take discoveries from the lab to people who need them?
We're working with different scientists across the scientific discovery continuum. So when we talk about this continuum, we're thinking about all the steps in research. You have an idea, it perhaps starts in the lab, and then if that shows promise in the lab, you have to test it in a small group of people. And if that works well, you have to test it in a large population, and then you have to do clinical trials and get approval for it to be safe to be used in the clinics and medical centers and in the community. So each step of the way, there needs to be coordination so that we can accelerate. Often research will stay in one place of that continuum and not make it all the way. And teams tend to work on what their specialty is. Many scientists, they spend their whole career studying just one thing. So the Arthritis Foundation can provide leadership by connecting different experts together and making sure in the beginning, if you're starting in the lab, you're assuming it's going to be successful. Then what? Which scientist is going to receive the next step to take it to the next level? And how is this going to get all the way to the clinic? What steps have to be made? How do we design the studies so that they'll happen as fast as possible and actually be successful? So that's the role we're playing. We're really that big picture leader that's aware of the different experts, not just across the country, but around the world, and connecting them to each other, breaking down the silos and saying, hey, let's work together so that people with arthritis can get help faster.
Okay, thank you. There appear to be no further questions at this time. Doctor, would you like to make any closing remarks before we conclude?
I just want to thank everyone for this great discussion and your really good questions, and hope that all of you will get a chance to look at our new scientific strategy. If you have further questions, do please reach out to us. And we're really excited to accelerate finding a cure for each of you and everyone else in this arthritis community. So thank you for your time and interest in our new scientific strategy.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Niskar. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your participation. You may now disconnect and have a great day.